It's frankly quite embarrassing what has been created. And I'm going to tell you this for the first time, that I think it's been created by you lot over there.
Well, I do think that there's no doubt that Brexit is very divisive. That's just a simple fact. And one of my concerns has been the fact that the longer we've been unable to take a decision on it in Parliament, and it was clear to me that Theresa May's deal was never getting through. We wasted a year finding that out. But it was also clear to me that the longer we left this unresolved, the deeper that division would become. And that's exactly what we've seen. And I think we just need to find a route through as fast as we can. I think there's only one way to do that without, dare I say, in my personal view, risking a disaster Jeremy Corbyn government. I don't think a general election is the way to fix this, and that's what I've been campaigning for. But in terms of what I do next, I'll stay involved in politics. What I'm saying is, the thing that has always driven me in politics has not particularly been having a role or being a cabinet minister. It's been about what I can achieve on the ground. And what I care about as someone who grew up in Rotherham, probably didn't have the opportunities I wanted as a young person. I want to fix that for the next generation. And I just feel that I can do that more effectively outside Parliament, because as we've seen, Parliament's totally gridlocked on Brexit. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably going to continue. And I want to put my time into things that I know will make a positive difference on the ground. A year ago, I set up an initiative called the Social Mobility Pledge, getting companies to really look at who they're recruiting and get different young people who might not get those opportunities. We've got hundreds of companies signed up. They employ 3 million people nearly. And I just really want to get motoring on that, because I think whatever happens on Brexit, this issue of Britain being a country where people just have different kinds of opportunities depending on where they start, we have to get that fixed. And so I'm going to put my time in fixing that.
They should have the right now to say, is this...
And then when they do say that,
or not?
and when they do say they want to leave again, your party's going to ignore it again.
Well, if it's a confirmatory referendum, it automatically becomes law.
Oh, right.
Which is what we did in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Which is what Tony Blair's government did in Northern Ireland. The Good Friday Agreement was subject to the ratification by the people of Northern Ireland, and it was voted through. Now, the amendment which Peter Kyle came up with was that, exactly that, for the European Union, and that was something that we supported when it came before the House. And I personally think if it came before the House again, we get a lot of support again, because it actually had more votes. I think it was put forward by Margaret Beckett and had more votes than any other single option. And it would have meant that if we had a referendum, we either left or we withdrew Article 50, dependent on the decision. Now, anybody cannot accuse those of us who think it's the wrong thing to do of not trying to find consensus.
Yeah, but your consensus is only on the side of not leaving the European Union. That's the consensus you're looking to find. No, and I can understand why.
Our consensus is for a referendum which would give people the choice. Now, I'm not saying I think we shouldn't leave the European Union. Therefore, from day one, just get in there and revoke Article 50. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think, my genuine belief is that revoking Article 50 eventually would be the best thing for the country. But
you've all voted.
The compromise is that the people have to know what the options are, and the actual options.
But you've also just said we've got to cut this short.
Again.
Christine, we've got to cut. Thank you very much for coming in.
Okay.
But the point is, the bottom line is, you started off by saying people want to see an end to this.
They
people
do.
Want to see. They don't want to see it dragged out for another 3 years.
I want to see an end to it because it's bad for the economy.
It's bad for the economy. It's
the
bad for
the
general psyche of the nation.
Absolutely.
It's got maniacs like these characters behind me shouting.
Oh, they're not maniacs. They're characters.
Of course they're maniacs. They are absolutely crazy. I'll take no.
You might say that.
No jip from them at all. Christine Jardine, Edinburgh West MP, always sincere, always consistent in her view about staying in the European Union.
If the government's defeated today, let's have a general election. I'm sick to the back teeth of this. I want a general election. I want to show these traitorous MPs. I know you got one next to you, but there. I want you...
No, she's gone.
Basically, I want them to understand something. When I got sent to war, because I got sent to war twice. When I got sent to war by Tony Blair, when he lied, did I object to it? No, I didn't. I did something which is void for these MPs. I did my duty,
Yes.
And I fought for my country, not for it to be handed across on a silver platter to the European Union. So let me tell you something, you bunch of traitorous shower. Don't you dare don't you ever dare say this country is a absolute Third Reich. This country is democracy. Democracy means sometimes you lose. Now, unfortunately, they are not mature enough to get over the fact we beat them. Now, if you want a general election, please come, because we are going to put you in your corner, because I am sick to the backseat of people like Christine Jardine telling me I didn't know what I'm talking about, and it's democracy to have a second referendum. No, sweetheart, it is not.
If I was having a bet, my bet would be 2 elections, one in October, one next May. If I wanted to make some money.
If Jeremy Corbyn
What, so the
goes in
first
that time,
one, no sort of respectable majority of any kind, probably.
I can't see how the Tories will not lose some seats to the Liberals, but not
lose
so
some
many,
in Scotland, right?
And lose some in Scotland. Now, is that going to be 5 they lose, or is it going to be 25? I have no idea, and I know it'd be guesswork. I think, though, the likelihood is that they will lose a few. They might lose 1 or 2 in London, possible. But that depends on the Liberals. The Liberals might actually save them. The Liberals take X number of votes off Labour in, say, Ian Duncan Smith's seat. Then Labour actually doesn't get what it needs, even if Ian's vote comes down a bit. So there's going to there'll be some shock results just on the maths. That suggests possibly Boris getting a majority, possibly more likely a hung parliament, and if it goes badly wrong, still a hung parliament. Jeremy as the largest party. That'll be another election pretty soon as well, possibly before May. So I think 2 elections likely, but I think Labour will find an excuse on Thursday to vote for an election, possibly having changed the law.
You say that Labour MPs are sitting here are trying to use misleading language in order to mislead the public. You keep talking about a deal. We haven't negotiated a deal, and this is part of what is obscuring this for the public. You have to be clear about what has happened here.
So you're going to tell
and
me
you're not telling the truth.
Well, you're going to tell me. Well, I am telling the truth because that's what I do.
Yeah.
What I don't do is obfuscate the truth, which is what
that's
you
what
people
you've just
do.
done. That's
no,
exactly
not.
what you've just
done. So you're
done.
telling me that Theresa May did not go to
telling
Brussels.
the public we've got
Theresa
a deal.
May,
We haven't started negotiating
you're telling me
a deal.
Theresa May did not go to Brussels, did not negotiate a deal, did not bring it before Parliament, and it was not voted down 3 times.
She negotiated a withdrawal agreement which settled legal and technical questions and allowed the UK then to go and negotiate a deal. Those negotiations haven't yet started. That is one of the reasons the public are so frustrated. It's one of the reasons I'm so frustrated, and it's one of the reasons that we're trying to bring that withdrawal agreement bill before Parliament for the first time to see if we can get a majority for it, and then allow Parliament and the government to have a role and a say in what those
Why don't you have an
trading
election?
relationship
Then you could be in
arrangements look
charge
like.
of the government, and then you could do what you wanted.
Because if we have an election right now, we give Boris Johnson the power to set the date. And if he sets the date for after the 31st of October, we leave the EU with no deal and no arrangements at all.
Well, you say we haven't got a deal now.
Well, we've got a deal because
you just told me we didn't have a deal.
We haven't left the EU yet, so we've got a deal in that we're still technically
You just told me we haven't got a
members
deal.
of the European
You can't
Union.
even have a deal a minute ago and now not have a deal.
I think you're just trying to be difficult, to be honest.
I'm
I mean,
not.
this
I'm
is
just trying to get at the
complete and utter
truth.
Nonsense.
I'm just trying to get at the truth.
We haven't left the EU
Right.
yet.
So do we have a deal?
So we haven't negotiated a deal.
You just
no.
said we had a
but
deal.
We're in the EU at the moment.
Yes.
If we leave on the 31st of October, we aren't. I don't really understand what's so difficult about this for you.
Well, it's not me that's
we're
difficult.
leaving the
I
EU
do
on the
my job
31st
every
of
day, right?
October.
You guys haven't done your job for 3 years.
Well, this is just complete nonsense because you're not doing your job now. You're pretending to the public that all we're doing in Parliament is running round
Well, that's what it looks
trying
like.
to stop a
And that's
deal.
what they say to me.
We're trying
Because
to agree a
I
deal.
talk to the
That
public
is the
every
purpose.
single day, and that's what they say to me. They're sick to death of politicians arguing over semantics, arguing over little niceties, and making excuses about why we cannot do what they asked you to do, which is to leave the European Union. Do you not feel a bit guilty having caused all of this?
No, not in the slightest. I mean, I did think long and hard about what I was going to do. I was very happy to support Boris Johnson initially because of I totally understand his point that at some point you have to draw a line under the Brexit saga, and we've promised to get out by October the 31st, but I did that on the basis that he was genuinely going to try and negotiate a deal. I think leaving with a deal is the best thing. Therefore, I'm not going to sign up to an underhand strategy to run down the clock, which I thought suspending Parliament exposed, and I certainly wasn't going to sit by while my friends and colleagues were suspended from the Conservative Party and lose the whip. I wasn't going to get up in the morning and look myself in the mirror and think I wasn't with them.
So what are you going to do on Monday?
Well, get on the tube and come to Parliament
and do what?
See what happens.
I don't think it's funny. I mean, I think the thing is, right, people are really annoyed today, because we came back from the recess and it was supposed to be, let's move this on. We've got a new Prime Minister. We've got a new, more positive attitude towards Brexit. It's no longer Theresa May's game. We have got a proper sort of, means of getting somewhere. And we're nowhere. Again, in fact, not only are we nowhere, we're worse than nowhere.
Well, what's not funny, of course, is the dozens of Tory MPs who campaigned for Brexit and then voted consistently against Brexit in the withdrawal agreement and have driven us to a position
but is it not time to stop?
Position where your friends and family are going to lose their jobs and see their businesses go under because of their ideological obsession, their unremitting hostility to Europe, their ridiculous and false claims to represent the will of the people. That's what's not funny, and you may set yourself up as the spokesman for Brexit who knows the mood of the public. You've never been elected. You've never been elected. You don't talk to my constituents.
I get elected every single day, mate.
You don't talk to my constituents who are absolutely fed up.
Maybe we'll get some of your constituents to ring in.
Fed up with
from Wantage, right? If you've got somebody from Wantage who wants to ring in and speak to me, so that I can now say to Ed Vasey, I've spoken to one of his constituents. That would be great.
It'll be a first.
How do you know I've never spoken to anyone from Wantage?
It'll be a first.
The point is
what's your point?
All you're doing, Ed, is proving everybody's point that you're an arrogant, opinionated and rather self-appointed person.
I've come on your show as a guest.
Right.
I've explained my position. I think
but
people are very angry
you're being
about
rather arrogant about the
you've
people,
accused me of laughing about it. I'm not laughing about it at all.
Well, you were laughing.
I'm not.
Well, you were.
I'm not.
Okay, you're not laughing now, but you actually were. The point is, right, it is all about you.
It's not all about me.
No, it is. It's all about you collectively and your little feuds that you've got going on inside the Houses of Parliament. And the people, meanwhile, are the ones who are suffering. You talk about people losing jobs, losing income, losing status and whatever it is because of what you believe a no-deal Brexit would bring. But an awful lot of people are incredibly unhappy and quite upset about what you people collectively in the Houses of Parliament are not getting on with.
I agree. That's why I wish we'd voted for the withdrawal agreement and left on 29th of March, which is what I voted for.
Right, but then nobody else in enough numbers did that, right?
Well,
now there's... Well, so you're happy that you did it.
I voted for Brexit 3 times.
You also voted to give away the government to the opposition.
No, I voted for Brexit 3 times.
Well, what did you do on Tuesday?
I'll continue to vote for a deal to leave the European Union.
Yeah, but on Tuesday you voted to hand the government and the power that the government has not only to the opposition but also to Brussels.
I voted for Brexit 3 times, and I voted to give Parliament a say on whether we should crash out.
Right, but the reality is, right, that Boris Johnson is now going to be under the yoke of the EU because he has to go back there now, thanks to this bill which he just passed through the House of Lords last night, which you were very much a party in making happen. And he's going to now have to go back to Brussels and either ask for another deal or ask for an extension. You happy about that?
I'm happy that I voted for Brexit 3 times, that if people have voted with me who are now in government, we would have left on 29th of March. And I'm happy that Parliament has a say on whether we crash out.
Okay. Well, so what do we do now?
Boris goes and negotiates his deal, brings it back. If there's a no deal, Parliament gets to have a say in whether we should crash out.
So if he can't get a deal, because the European Union refused to budge on whatever it is that they're refusing to budge on.
Well, according to Boris,
what?
They are moving, so that's good news.
Well, that is good news. What about an election?
It looks like there's going to be one.
And you're not going to be able to stand as a Conservative member?
That's correct.
And would you stand as an independent?
Don't know.
Okay. Ed, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
We'll see. If we get someone from Wantage on, I'll give you a message. This is Talk Radio. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We are here all day.
The Tory party has just gone bang.
Well, actually,
and it's collapsed.
You're wrong about that because there was
why?
Because Alistair Campbell's now been expelled from the Labour Party.
Yeah, but that's
because
not
he voted for the Lib Dems.
I thought you were complaining about Alistair Campbell.
Well, I am complaining about Alistair Campbell.
No, indeed, he never did.
Well, what I'm saying is...
So what are you saying?
Well, what I'm saying to you is...
No, ask him a few questions.
No, just pile in any time you want. Just jump in.
I'm enjoying this.
Just jump in. The point is that you did not brook any kind of
you're talking rubbish.
No,
I'm
not. You would not brook any. All right, well, let me.
Jeremy Corbyn rebelled 589 times, was never thrown out. This lot,
that's
Philip Hammond, David Gauke, they rebelled once and were not only deprived of the whip, they apparently
let me ask you
to
this.
be members of the Tory
you're
party.
comparing apples
That's
and
wrong.
oranges.
Oh, why is
That's
that?
wrong.
Because Jeremy Corbyn never voted to give power away from the government to the opposition, which is why they were kicked out. And
No,
I think quite rightly.
they were not voting to give
Yes,
power
they
away.
were.
They voted for a bill. They refused. They said expressly they would not vote for a vote of no confidence. And because they supported preventing us crashing out with no
There
deal,
is again.
they have been
No.
expelled
He's
from
lied
the Tory
already.
party.
He said he wouldn't say it, and he has.
I
He's
said the
lied
reverse,
already. You
Tim. I
can't
said I
trust
would say.
anyone in
I'll
the
give
Labour
you
Party.
one more chance, both of you, to prove to the public who are listening that we're not just some
you're
kind
a
of
disgrace.
talking shop.
You're basically
You can't
only
call me a
peddling
disgrace.
We've had the
Boris's
lies, now comes the
lies.
abuse.
You cannot call
And
me a
then you
disgrace.
start to tell complete
No,
untruths
that's not true.
about what the Labour Party
No,
did.
Can I
Well,
just
no.
say, I think you're a really good interviewer.
Thank you very much indeed. You
You're
see,
just
the
a
voice
toady.
of reason.
Presumably
See,
he supports Boris Johnson.
well, at least he's elected. You sit in the House of Lords
Indeed.
where nobody
Well, why
put
did you
you
invite me
apart
on
from
then? Why did you
patronage.
why
I
did
didn't invite you on,
me
they did.
Okay,
I
sorry,
just
right,
do what I'm
right,
told.
Okay,
It's nothing to do with me.
I won't be back with you then on that basis, Mike.
But the bottom line is, what are we going to do next? Please, can you give me an answer?
I'll tell you.
Go
We
on.
should pass the bill. We should ask for an extension. We should then have a general election. That's my view of what we should do.
Okay. Tim.
They're not going to pass anything approaching agreement. This whole business about
What's
a
he
no-deal
talking
Brexit is a fig leaf.
What is he talking about?
Is a fig
He
leaf.
makes no sense.
Is a fig leaf because I'm afraid the majority of the Labour Party, who have consistently voted every possible opportunity to make Brexit a reality, they don't want Brexit to happen, and they're using the no-deal excuse as a fig leaf.
What is he
That
talking
is why
We're against no deal.
406 constituencies voted for leave. At the last time we had a vote on the agreement, all but 5 Labour MPs voted against the agreement that would have brought Brexit about, with all its warts and all. I'm afraid the only way
Now
we're
some
going
of
to
them
break
want to vote
this-
for it again, even though
and
they
now
voted against it last
and now
time.
apparently they want to vote for it in any case. The only way we're going to get out of this impasse, I'm afraid, is to have a general election and put it back to the people. Do you want a Marxist government led by Jeremy Corbyn, who hasn't a clue how to get us out of this on Brexit and doesn't want to achieve Brexit? Or do you want to have a clear, determined view, which Boris Johnson has, is that we've got to get out, and that deadline of the 31st of October has got to be respected?
Charlie
and then we can
Faulkner,
move on.
Do you want a Marxist government? Final question.
I want a Labour government.
I would like all MPs to pay back 3 years of their salary. They asked us to vote in 2016. We voted. They didn't like it. They messed about, blocked it, done whatever. And now they want a general election. So, in fact, asking us to vote again. Why are we doing their jobs? They get paid an awful lot of money. If you went to work tomorrow, sat in front of your microphone and didn't actually do anything for your 2 hours, what do you think your employers would say?
Well, I don't think they'd be very happy. Charlie Faulkner would be really happy, though, because, I mean, he, having earlier called me a disgrace, would be more than happy for me to stop talking about anything. But I take your point. Listen, luckily, Shirley, we've got somebody who can answer that question for you, because the last time I checked, 650 MPs have been taking an awfully long time to get to where we are today, which is pretty much nowhere. So can you answer Shirley's question and just sort of give her a reason, James, as to why we are having to make the decision for you, if you like?
Well, hi Shirley. The key point, very simply, is that in this country, the way that we govern is we make laws by obtaining a majority in Parliament, and I fully accept the result of the referendum. I entirely respect that the country voted to leave, and I've tried to work with my colleagues to find a way of delivering that is effective and credible and all the rest of it. But we have not been able to command a majority. And because of that, it's not been able to be put into law. And if it doesn't go into law, it doesn't happen. And that's the way all countries work, actually. Obviously, I have profound regret about that. There is a crisis of trust now in our country, which people like you must be incredibly frustrated about. But we cannot force MPs to vote in a particular way. We are a democracy. We have to debate. And if we cannot resolve our differences, eventually, the only option is to go back to you for a general election, I'm afraid.
What do you...
Well,
Shirley,
with great respect.
Sorry, go on.
With great respect. I find that a total dereliction of duty. Both the Conservatives and the Labour stood on manifestos saying that they would honour the referendum. So you haven't. So pay your salaries back because you haven't done your job. And why should we do it for you?
Last week, people were calling... Hang on, last week, people were saying this Boris Johnson's a dictator, he's worse than Hitler. I mean, it's all nonsense, right? He is not a dictator. This week has proven that the British parliamentary democracy is alive and well.
It's a fair step forward, but it's certainly not alive and well because it's steeped on conventions. It has no codified constitution, which means that Boris Johnson can do whatever he likes.
Well, he can't do whatever he likes. That's not true.
It is true. It means that he does, and Gove said this to Andrew Marr on Sunday, that they may not listen to any laws that have been passed. So we need to be really clear about this.
Well, lots of things are said on lots of television programmes. I mean, Emily Thornberry last night said that she would get her new deal sorted out from Brussels and then she would campaign against it if they became the government. You know, there's a lot of nonsense being talked, and I think you have to take all of it in with a pinch of salt.
Perhaps,
the bottom line is we are due to leave. The bottom line is people have voted in this country to leave the European Union, and democracy should dictate that that's what happens, surely.
No, I mean...
You're against democracy then?
No, that's not true.
Well, you don't like it when it's against what you want to do, though.
It's not true. That vote was since declared, that null and void, if you like.
When was it declared null and void? I must have missed that one. When would that happen?
Yeah, because you can't go around and tell people that we're going to get £350 million.
I'm sorry. No, Alexandra, you are an elected official, right, of the Green Party. You are an MEP who has been voted into the European Parliament. You've just told me that first referendum was null and void. It isn't.
It may as well be.
No, but it's not, is it? You can't go around saying things that aren't true.
No, but the courts have said that you cannot go around in a referendum like that and lie to people, which is what...
Which courts?
In that referendum.
Which courts have said that?
The courts have said that.
Which court?
What we need now is...
I'll tell you what the courts have said today. The courts have said today that it is not illegal for Boris Johnson to prorogue Parliament. So, that's one thing the courts have. Let's talk to Tim Martin, who's the founder and chairman of Wetherspoons, of course. Tim, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Now, I've seen you before talking about the prices of certainly of beer possibly going down after Brexit, as a bonus of Brexit, really, much against what many people would say is going to happen, because all we hear a lot of is the Remainers saying, prices are going to go up, we're not going to be able to get certain things. What do you make of this study?
Well, yes, I think the people who say that, just as an aside, are wrong, because there's many protectionist tariffs that the government can abolish if we leave the EU from in respect of non-EU imports, which is most of the world, which will reduce tariffs. But that aside, you won't be surprised to hear that I agree with Scott. In fact, the supermarkets now have a tax break whereby they pay no VAT on food sales and pubs pay 20%. And the effect of that is to allow supermarkets to subsidise the price of beer sales and alcoholic drink sales from this tax break. And so supermarkets have got cheaper as time has gone by, and as the VAT rate has gone up, pubs have become relatively more expensive. So what Scott is suggesting is a sensible rebalancing of the system, which would make it would still be cheaper in supermarkets by some measure, but it would enable people to go to pubs. And I think that is, leave aside my pubs, I think it's that most people now accept that it's a social advantage to drink in a social environment. You pay a bit more anyway in the on-trade because the costs are much higher, and it's supervised drinking. So that can't prevent people from behaving idiotically from time to time, of course, but it's much better once you lose all control of the consumption of alcohol once it's sold at the supermarket till. So I think a lot of people would go along with Scott that there are tremendous social advantages, including pushing up the average price that someone pays because pubs are more expensive, by reversing the trend towards supermarket drinking.
Sure. And, I mean, the governments historically, and I don't just mean this government, every government historically loves the idea of the sin tax, don't they? They love taxing tobacco and they love taxing alcohol. But it doesn't seem to be a very fair tax. I was talking to a wine expert a few weeks ago who said that the wine tax is sort of really, really skewed against wine rather than against beer.
Well, it's you get into all sorts of difficult areas here. I think beer and pubs are synonymous. So I'd certainly hate anything that pushed up the price of a pint any more than it is today. But I suppose there is an argument for equality of taxes. I really thought Scott hit the nail on the head when he said, actually, it means your own MP, your government, can be in charge of correcting these anomalies, and he named a few. if we leave the EU, because now you can't, and everyone thinks, oh, if it's an EU regulation, how the heck do you go about altering that? So that's the essence of the argument for more democracy and leaving the EU.
Well, it exactly is, and you'll find many of those arguments right here on the Independent Republic, Tim. I was going to ask you, just generally speaking, we've been in Westminster all week. It's my first show out of the studios here in London Bridge. It's been an absolutely kind of ridiculous waste of another week of time, hasn't it?
Well, it's pretty incredible. If you boil it all down, what you've got in this country is you've got the Oxbridge Remainer class who are perfectly entitled to their views, intelligent people with good intentions, but they're overbearing control in Parliament, in the CBI and the FT, and they don't want to leave. For them, and some of my best friends are Oxbridge Remainers, it is the EU is a quasi-religion, and they've put that above democracy. The rest of the country, bless us, knows that if you want humanity to survive, democracy must prevail over a Brussels superstate.
Well, absolutely right. But what do you think is going to be the outcome here? Because, I mean, I started the week believing that we were going to actually get somewhere and Boris was going to get to lead us down the road to the proroguing of Parliament, getting closer to October the 31st. And now I'm not quite so sure.
I think between the Leave side of the Conservative Party, the Brexit Party, and the trenchant work of other Leavers, that we will just regain democracy, just as we managed to avoid joining the Euro when the same political faction tried to get us to join. So I'm an optimist, Mike.
Yes, well, I'm an optimist too. I once did an entire show on optimism and how good it is for you and how great it is to believe in something which is actually positive rather than to believe in something negative. So the fight continues on here, Tim. You're very welcome to come in and join us any time.
I don't envy you your task in Parliament.
Well, you know, I'm giving them all a good shoeing, as we used to say in Scotland, but good luck with it, Tim. Thank you very much indeed. Tim Martin there, the founder and chairman of Wetherspoons, who says, as I think most of us would agree, the problem with people who love the EU is that it has become a kind of quasi-religion to them. You cannot criticise it. It's become a bit like the NHS. You know, if you must be against the NHS if you think there's anything wrong with it, you must be against the European Union if you think there's anything wrong with it. It's a wonderful organisation. It's fantastic. It saves us from wars. It stops us from exploiting each other. It amazingly enables people to come and work here from other countries. Well, all of those things have happened long before the EU ever came about, and they will continue to happen in what I believe to be a very civilised country, which is what we are. I'll tell you who's making this country uncivilised. It's the people who continually whine, who continually moan, who continually groan, and who continually make out that this is not a democracy, even though democracy is happening all around them. And the one part of the democracy that they can't seem to recognise is the one part which actually led us to leave the European Union in the first place, the biggest single vote that was ever taken place in this country in 3 years ago, in 2016, when we voted to leave the European Union. Let's get on with it, shall we?